Jesus Christ, mother walk, look at people behavior.
I want the courage to be happy. And happiness really at this age is a choice.
Today's guest is extra special, a friend of mine for a very long time, but also very known to the Caribbean population at home and worldwide as one of our biggest soca stars. Sitting with me is Gamal Doyle, who's known to people as Skinny Fabulous.
Yes.
And he is,
135 pounds of twisted steel, a little bit of sex appeal. I keep it real, St. Vincent's General, Skinny Fabulous, Gamal Omar Doyle. Bam. That was a lot.
Thank you. So he's from St. Vincent. He's a six-time Soca Monarch winner and created history when he won the Road March in Trinidad and Tobago in 2019 with his song Family, which I know a lot of you know, and that featured Machel Montano and Bunji Garland.
That I have met artists on my journey before I became known as a soca star per se.
Right.
I know I met artists that were doing it before me on a very significant way. In my modern time, I would say I am one of the main flag bearers, but there's also the likes of a Problem Child who also carries the flag very well.
Yeah. Yes, people know you as the flagship, but the thing is I remember a time when, one, that was not the case.
Yeah.
Which I don't think people know, because we're living in a time where Carnival is very integrated. And there's now this passage of people and artists are moving between countries, and you could come to Barbados and Barbados embrace you like you're one of their own.
I am a Bajan.
Exactly. I mean,
and I am a Grenadian, and I'm a St. Lucian, and for sure I'm a Trini.
Exactly.
Time flies really quickly, and I think with the advent of social media and everything is so disposable and so like recyclable these days that time is losing its value in certain ways, right? So it was just 2008 where I got my first big break. The difference between 2008 and 2023, it seems so blurred, but it has been quite a journey to from then to now. And even from 2008, which was my first break, there's a journey that exists before that, which is even more tumultuous than the one that existed after. You know?
2008, that's when you won your first
Soca Monarch.
Soca Monarch in St. Vincent.
Yes.
Do you feel like that was the start of your career?
I feel it was the start of the benefits of the hard work of the previous years, right? I think that's when I felt like, geez, well, finally, I'm beginning to see some head, because I was still in school too, and I'm still trying to work and be a professional, trying to be some kind of communication analyst of some sort. And so when you're working towards something, and somehow the rewards aren't as forthcoming, yet you're very tempted to give up at times, right? And not that I was ever planning to, but that it came at a time where I needed that reward. I needed some type of validation to say, Skinny, you're doing what you're meant to do, and people will appreciate you. And it came at a very critical time where if that didn't happen, my life may have been a little different, you know? Because
there's an exhaustion that comes from,
of course,
trying. Before 2008, right? Who was Gamal? Like, if I was to ask your mother who Gamal was, what would she tell me?
She would say that he is an introverted, shy, not so brave young man. I think even my personality as a professional surprises my mom, right? Because I don't think this is the child that she knew, right? She knew that I always wanted to be something, and she knew I would be maybe the life of a room, but not the life of a party. Right? And that would be a small room, maybe amongst family. She would be like, yeah, he's the life of that little room down there. But I don't think she expected me to have this type of big grandeur personality that allows me to be Skinny Fabulous.
So then how did you find that? Like, how did you know you wanted to sing, and how do you know?
I found that in school, you know. I found that in secondary school, in Form 2. And I found that because I was asked to do a poem. Everybody had to do poetry. And instead of reciting my poem as just words. The teacher encouraged me to sing it if I'm more comfortable doing that. And I sang it. And when I sang it, like, I mashed up my classroom of 24 people. And I was like, what? I can do this? You know, but prior to that, I used to sing people's songs. Like at lunchtime, I used to knock on the desk and sing a little Bounty Killer.
I could see you as the child in the class knocking on the desk.
Yeah.
That is you square.
Yes. In fact, when in school, right, there are certain desks. Not all desks are created equally. There's some desk that has more bass than some. Some desk has a deeper belly, you understand? So I used to always fight for that desk that produced the most bass. You understand? So I mean, every lunchtime it would be a showdown. And I never thought it would result in me actually taking it seriously until that time where I sang a piece of material that was written by myself, you know?
Did you know that you could actually sing, like, as a talent and not just enjoying an artist that you admired?
I knew I could mimic artists. I knew I could produce the sound of quite a few artists back then. That's what I was confident in.
And you were studying in Jamaica.
Right.
What were you studying?
Mass communication. I went to actually do multimedia at first as a diploma, and then I kind of fell back in love with the life of school and academics. You know, first when you're growing up, like, school is the worst thing, you can't wait to finish. And then I became somewhat of an adult and I went to UE and I'm like, whoa, no, but school life could be fun. And there were some adventures there that I wanted to kind of pursue. And so after doing this radio thing as a diploma, I actually wanted to kind of dive into the academic side of what was there as an opportunity. So I applied to do a bachelor's in mass comm with a minor in philosophy. So that was the best 3 years of my life, actually.
So at that point, what you told yourself you're becoming what?
I just wanted to be somebody, anybody, in any field that I decided I wanted to pursue. I just wanted to master that field. And so it was still very, not aimless, but just doing my best at whatever it is that was in front of me. And just allowing the universe to take me where it needed to take me. Even without having the break, right? Because this is before 2008. Huh?
Right, yes.
I became Fresher of the Year. Simply because I went and I was DJing. I didn't even know how to DJ, but I was in a DJ sound clash with another gentleman called Teague. He's from Barbados. And I won the sound clash. And then I became Fresher of the Year and I had to go up and speak. And I was just the life of the campus.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I was always meant to be the life of something.
Something, yes.
Yeah.
And this introvert thing, I don't know. Maybe it was, you didn't yet find your voice, but
maybe.
It seems that you were always gravitating to.
Maybe. But it was a confidence too. As a kid, I really didn't have enough confidence to be me. I mean, I was always a skinny child, which was always the joke of everybody, how skinny I was, right? And believe it or not, me coming up with the name, the skinny part, believe it or not, was a coping mechanism. I calling myself that, that was me addressing what I know you're going to tease me about before you could do it.
Right.
I know you're going to be like, wow, why are you so skinny? Your mother don't feed you, your malnutrition. So I'm like, okay, all right, yeah, I'm skinny. You know what? That's my name.
Right.
And then I dressed it up with the fabulous because I can be skinny and that. Like, we all, like, enemy skinny is the new buff man, you know what I mean? You could be skinny and still actually be an attractive guy, but I had to condition myself for that. In school, I never got the girls, boy. All them other guys were getting the girls because I was just that skinny twig. And I had like stuff on my skin from like mosquito bites and things. So I was never confident enough to actually be myself.
And so do you think that music helped you transition?
Of course. The skinny fabulous personality thing that helped me, that helped Gamal to be confident, to be himself.
Right. I do think it's important to understand like the point where you decide to change those things, right? 2008 was when you won, but where was the point where you decided, okay, I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to actually get on stage. I'm calling myself Skinny Fabulous. I'm singing for the people at St. Vincent now.
Right. That would have been in 2001. That's another 7 years before 2008. And it's just one of those things where if you have enough persons around you telling you that you are great and you could be great, then you become great without even other people validating that, right? So I always knew. I look back on the interview the other day. I was in school, and this is like around maybe 2001, the same time. And what I look back at it, and I saw arrogance, but a playful arrogance, right? But it was that type of arrogance as a kid that helped me to fake the confidence, because it wasn't a real confidence I was talking with. It was the confidence of like somebody trying to fake it to make it. And I spoke that into existence so much that I actually became
You trained your mind
confident,
almost, yeah.
right? But that was me doing dancehall music and telling myself I would be the next Buju, I would be the next Bounty Killer.
So they were your influences, Buju.
For sure, and Bounty.
And you just came off a stage last night
With Buju. And did a collab with Bounty and opened for Bounty, and Bounty just be calling me up and says like, it's crazy how the world works.
Yeah.
You know.
So obviously you're patterning yourself off of Buju and Bounty because they're your inspirations.
Back then,
yeah. So along the way, how then did you find like what was yours?
To take up the voice of a Bounty or a Buju, you actually have to take up some of their personality. I wasn't able to do that. When you get confident in who you are, your voice will follow. Right? So as I found the confidence in me, my ability to write, my ability to have a stage presence and to perform, that molded my own voice. So I gradually got away from the Bounty and the Buju sounding type of thing, and I was confident enough to embrace my voice. Even now you could tell there's some aggression that I use in my delivery that is still of that Bounty Killer kind of influence. And it would happen with most people, even Bounty Killer. Bounty Killer will tell you when he started, he was trying to be like a Shabba until he found his voice. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you trying to emulate and trying to be of a particular standard based on somebody that you like or admire, and then finding yourself after that.
I think sometimes it helps you with the vision.
Yes.
Right? Sometimes you don't always know where you fall until you find somebody that you're like, okay, well, I think I really like this versus really like that.
Precise.
So it's a form of like a North Star, I would say.
Precise.
But you have to find your voice. Like that has to be a part of the process. I want to talk about the integration into Trinidad, right? Because although you've been going there, you're performing in their Soca Monarch competition, the process is not seamless, right? And it looks seamless now in 2023 where we are, but the process back then, and I feel like I was living in Trinidad at that time, so I can remember how much work a Caribbean artist had to do to make it in Trinidad, and to actually be heard, like to have your music play on the radio, to appear on stage, to perform with people at concerts and stuff like that. So what was your strategy? Cards
just ended up in my deck that came through networking, talent, personality, and drive, you know. But to be in Trinidad back in like the 2008, you literally had to go down there, book yourself an apartment, find yourself a driver, find yourself like an agent who will try to talk to some promoters to get you a little spot at the beginning of the show or some craziness. And it required that. Now, not so much, but you needed to be on the ground and really try to reinvent yourself over and over. You could have been big in your country, right? And it really didn't mean anything to that environment when you were in Trinidad. And so sometimes you go, you lose, because you spend all this money just to be there, just to go and do interviews, and it resulted in no shows. It was part of the process that needed to be done. And despite how much times I'd lost money doing that, and I was determined that this have to pay off at some point in time. So I kept at it for years.
I asked that because I think now we live in a generation where everything is instant gratification, right? And it's like if something isn't working now, then maybe it's not meant for me. But really and truly, there's a level of grind and a level of dedication and a level of investment that you have to put in. So for like Barbadian artists or smaller, anybody, anywhere who's like trying to break into a space that does not know them, based on your path, what kind of characteristics do you think is important.
I'll tell you something that you may or may not be aware of, and this might be just my opinion, but I think if people put some thought into it, they'll see it as well. The generation of artists that we have now, they're not exposed to the rigorous requirements of what is needed to break into a market. With the advent of the TikToks and the IGs and whatnot, you'd find that somebody who has zero value for grind and hustle and hard work in a moment could put out a video, it goes viral, and they're a star in like 2 months. And they're thrown into that environment, and then without that respect for the climb that a lot of the artists that came before, sometimes you find that's why some of these artists now, they're big this year and you're wondering what happened next year, right? They have 2 years of success and then they disappear because they're just thrown into the spotlight because social media did it for them, right? So when you ask, like, what are some of the characteristics now needed for an artist to break into a market, there's the old school way, which I often say might take you longer, but at the end of it, you will be a stronger, you'd be a more versatile, you'll be a more rounded artist, and you would be able to handle anything that comes. When you do a little thing and then TikTok make you famous and then bam, 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 you don't even know how to keep up with that success. You know what I'm saying? Because you never had to grind for it. And these social media fame is so disposable these days too. It messes with our ability to appreciate hard work. It messes with our ability to even be empathetic. These days, when you see something horrible on your timeline, you're so accustomed to scroll. You'll be sad for like maybe 5 minutes. You might see something happen to a kid, and you can feel that might mess up. Back in the day, that would mess up your month. Now, it might mess up 5 minutes of your time, and then you scroll and you see something else, right? But that same disposable attitude that we have right now messes with the artists. It messes with people as humans. I think it messes with just humanity. Anyways, back to the question. I don't have an answer to what.
We dealing with world problems already.
The answer is, bro, if you're trying to bust now, don't take the shortcut. Do the grind. Work with proper producers. Do your interviews. Be on the ground. Do your PR. Hire good management. Don't try to do it for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Your job is to sit down home and create and be creative and figure out how to coin words and phrase and melodies. Your job is not to figure out how you gain on that stage. You can step into my beard and go off like.
The journey starts to grow, because I remember the momentum started to pick up, and you start to really earn as like a soca artist.
Yeah, start to earn some stripes.
Right. But also start to earn some money. So as a Vincentian, coming from 104,000 people, maybe being the first of your family to earn this kind of money, like, what's it like actually being the first? Being the first to have this kind of money, this kind of, like, all those things.
That's a very good question. I never really thought about it. Because when I think about who came before me, I'm not sure that they were exposed to a market that allowed them to price their talent in this type of way, right? I'm living in a time where I'm not even dictated by what a promoter is willing to pay. I say, this is what I want, and if you can't pay it, then fine, bye. Somebody else is gonna come. And I needed to learn how to say no to some of these things. But because of, like you were saying, the growth as an artist, the undeniable performances and talent that I've gone through for the past decade, I am now confident enough to demand what I deserve. But I never thought about, what it means to actually be the first or one of the first to be that coming from St. Vincent. But for sure, it's a very proud thing, because I'm now able to take care of my mom, to take care of myself, to take care of my kids, this is not generational. I didn't walk into this. I'm building something now that I'm going to leave, and I'm also diversifying what I do with this type of opportunity financially, because I know there is an expiration date on music. Well, not on music, but on a music career. Right.
When was the moment in your life where you were like, Ways, boy, I doing this thing.
Right. I remember in 2010, I saw $100,000 in my account, right? Like, I worked so hard to get there. And when I got to $100,000, I remember calling my best friend, Karen, and I almost cried. And I was like, yo, would you believe I have $100,000 in my account? And that felt so grand to me. I felt rich. 10 years later, that is nothing, boy. You know, but it's just to appreciate where you are at all times, because 100,000 then felt really good. But in the same way, I always encourage youth or upcoming artists, when you make that first 100, 500, 1,000, be grateful for what it means when you make that first, because it is all, a first is a first. It might be a small number to a next artist, but it is your first 1,000. It is the first. I remember the first time I was able to charge 2,000 US, and I felt so good. I was like, wow, this man actually going to pay me $2,000, because I was accustomed going to Toronto in little clubs for 500. So when I charge a man 2,000 thinking he's gonna bid me down, and he said yes, I was like, wow.
I get you.
Right, and now, what is 2,000? What is that?
pay
Per diem?
that
That's
bill.
what is that? You know what I'm saying? But and that's why you never look down on wherever other artists are, because you were once there raving over that level of success. My success right now is no bigger than the artists who got their first gig at a bar to 10 people. Enjoy that moment, because it's just as big as mine going in Madison Square Garden.
Even sitting here talking to you and reflecting back, because I've been around during the different stages of Carnival, of your music career to some extent, and just like watching it, just sitting here and reflecting back, it's like, it's a little emotional, because I think one of the things that I know for sure is that if you stick to it, if you just stay the course, if you just keep doing that same thing over and over and over and over and over, you go reach.
You reach. And you must get better.
You go reach.
You will get better, and at some point in time, somebody will appreciate your growth and the talent and the time that you invested in yourself and your craft at some point in time.
So then we had 2019.
We're at 2019.
And 2019 was huge.
That was the year of family.
Yeah.
Right? And my benchmark at that point in time was, Jesus, just give me this road march title, because it would mean so much to me, not just as a musician, but just as a person coming from another island, from a small island. I needed it. It was very important to me that I was able to say yes in a tangible way. He is one of the greats. And historically speaking, you can't erase that. Right? This is not an opinion now. You know, this is something that is on record. This gentleman from St. Vincent came into a territory, not of his own. In these times, everybody is one territory. But just for the sake of the argument, right? Not of his own, was able to capture a title for the first time.
In the Mecca.
In the Mecca
Carnival,
of, yes.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
And with a sound that literally captured everybody.
Yes. I know what's so crazy. What's so crazy about that is that that song wasn't written to be a collab. It wasn't even written thinking it would be big. I went into the studio not having a song. You know, sometimes when you go into a studio, you have to warm up your voice. So you kind of go in there, you're checking, you start to sing nonsense just because you're trying to find your tone, warm up your voice. That was what that was. Family, because there's a nursery rhyme thing. I was like, this is our vibe, you know. And so I finished it in the studio, and then it was only after doing the chorus, the intro, and the first verse is when I realized, but you know, the message that this song turns out to be, it shouldn't be carried by one person. Right? Because now you're singing about unity, but you alone preaching this unity. Maybe what you should do is invite others to join, to strengthen the message of what this song is about now. So the first person was Boy, right? And then after that, I was like,
Boy
you know.
is Marshall.
Yes. Right? And then after that, I was like, Marshall, I know we good right here, you know? And we just us two, can deliver this message perfectly. But it will be even more dynamic if we invited Galen on it to even cement this message more, because remember before then they also had their little rift.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a real rift, but they had a musical rift.
Yeah.
And so it meant a lot for him to agree
Yes.
to have
Yes.
him on the track. And then it meant a lot when Gallon was on some, this is a vibe, you know. But hold on, let me think about it. That time you knew he was going to do it, you know. Gallon, the first time you heard Family, you knew he was going to do it. But you tell me, hey, I'm going to back tomorrow. And you know you went to bed knowing, yeah, this bad.
Strategy. Yeah.
He wasn't like, yeah.
Because that was a big, what you asking was a big question too. You know what I mean? Like Marshall Garland on a song. I mean, even for like us as the audience in Trinidad, that was huge.
Yeah.
That was huge.
That was a big deal.
You know, the history of it. The whole thing was a moment. It still is a moment. I think it will have life for a very...
I think it's fair to say that it's one of those instant classics, right?
Yeah.
For certain songs, when they are released, you know that they're going to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
Family is one.
Yeah. As I say, classic. For you, what was your song? What is a song from the catalog that is like etched in your spirit as?
In 2010, I did a song called Charge Up. Now, it wasn't this song on its own that will make what I'm about to say as memorable as it turned out to be. But it was my entrance onto a stage, and this was in St. Vincent, and it was in a competition too. And I eventually won that competition. But I came up on stage, and I came up through a scissors lift that I had to rent from Barbados, actually. And after my introduction, when I came up on that scissors lift, and I said, well, like a pack of jewelry sell, I have never felt the power of a unified crowd singing and jumping at the same time. It's something that I've never experienced ever again after, ever. When everybody jumps at the same time and sings at the same time in one moment, the stage was shaking. Like everything was shaking, and it was just because of the acoustic power of that one moment. I've never felt it ever again. And I almost fainted. I remember like getting lightheaded because I was so overwhelmed by that response. I love that moment.
That's amazing. You ever had a moment where like you were so overwhelmed, like what you were talking about just now? Maybe since then, where you felt like you would cry, got emotional on stage?
This year, at Pan on the Greens in Trinidad and Tobago, myself and Nyla Blackman, we were performing a song called Come Home.
Yeah.
And what's happening is when a Pan side is coming on, all performances, they have to stop, right? So we were performing, and the stage manager was cueing us like, okay, they're about to do a little Pan, whatever, so all they have to stop. So we were like, okay, all right, fine. We're still in the middle of this song, just about to hit the chorus. We stop, no mic, and the crowd sang that song so emotionally, like persons that closed their eyes and they were singing. I had no mic. We weren't using the mics because we were instructed to cut. But for a next minute or so, the crowd sang the whole hook, everything loud. And my pose was raising, and I came off, I hugged Nyla, and I felt the emotion of that moment, seeing how people embraced the song. Because they sang it a cappella, they held hands, they cried at a girl in the crowd, she started to cry. Yeah, I am an emotional guy. And that works maybe to my benefit most times. Sometimes it doesn't. But that's on a different topic altogether. But
you might need therapy for that part.
I mean, I might need therapy for that part. But it's as men sometimes, we are taught not to embrace softness, right? Until you actually get a daughter, then you have to embrace softness. But at the end of the day, we're just meant to be protectors and aggressors and fighters, and you know what I mean, just big and bad. But there's a value to being soft. There's a Mota Baruka from Jamaica explained it properly when he said there is feminine energy that exists in men. And we actually need that energy to be able to nurture and to care and to be able to love, right? If you really just want to embrace testosterone and masculinity, you're gonna deprive yourself of the fullness of what life is supposed to be, right? And so as my years went along, I just learned how to just not fight my emotions. And so even me telling you that I wanted to cry at that moment, I was like, oh, should I say that? But I need to say it because that's how I felt.
Yeah, and I mean, how could you deliver such a palpable song and not feel it inside of you?
True. There's something now that we're in an area where I'm going into things not said on camera. That song, Come Home, landed on other people's desks before it came on mine, right? And I'd say it landed on maybe three big artists.
Right.
And for some reason, I am not quite sure how it didn't hit them the way it hit me.
Right.
When I heard it first, and I did a bungee garland too. I did let me think about it. But immediately, I knew.
So that's how you know bungee knew?
Yeah, I knew. That's how I know bungee knew. Because I knew when I heard it. I said, yeah, let me think about it. I knew from the time I heard it that this was of meaning. I didn't know that it was going to be big. I didn't know it was going to be a road march contender, any of that. But that didn't matter. This was not a song I chose because I thought it would perform well. Actually had no expectations of the song. I chose to do this song with Nyla because it meant something and it felt so special when I heard it. Not because I thought I would make $1 million from it. It was going to have millions of streams. In fact, if you asked me then if I think it will do well, I said, I think people like it. It'll be okay. Maybe it's a sweet song. Maybe they'll listen to it when they're cleaning the stove. Maybe. So my decision to do that song was based on a pure emotions of what it meant to me in the moment I heard it.
And do you think you being in St. Vincent during a pandemic, during a volcano eruption, during community outreach, all these different things, do you feel like that paved the way, or what was it that opened you up?
I mean, I think the effects of the pandemic created that emotion or that kind of vulnerability for every one of us too. So when I heard it, it was like, for me, it wasn't about the payday boy. It really, this is a confession too. I didn't really expect the song to do that great, but I just know I had to do it because it meant something.
But guys, he talked about the album, right? The album is called Bad, Beyond a Doubt. And it's meant to be a story of his life.
Research. Did some research.
A story about his life, apparently. But you want to listen to it because it have all kind of thing on there.
Yeah, it have plenty bacchanal.
It have plenty.
It have things in there.
It have plenty bacchanal.
There's a song on there called Apology. There's New Girl. There's No Relationship. But you know, if you follow it, you'd understand that there's some meaning to some of these things.
Yeah, it tells a story. You know, I joke and I say, I call you a saga boy or whatever it is. But for you, right, what does Gamal desire for his life outside of music?
I want the courage to be happy.
Courage to be happy. That's a big statement.
Yeah. I think for the longest while, I haven't had the courage to be happy. And happiness really at this age is a choice. And in my personal life, I think that I am at that stage where I have the courage now to embrace what happiness means and what it will take for me to be happy. And for the longest while, I've been like just dodging. I expect happiness to just fall into place, you know. But personally, it takes commitment, it takes focus, and I think I'm ready to be that. And I think you can't have happiness if you're not focused and you're not disciplined. It just wouldn't happen.
And you're not making sacrifices.
And not making sacrifices. Happiness is also a sacrifice.
So then, what is happiness? What is the happy that you're talking about?
You see, because you're telling me it's not musically.
It's not musically.
All right.
This is courage.
It is
now.
Yeah, this is the courage, right?
This is the courage right here.
It's the ability to accept what you have and cherish what you have and understand that it is not always greener on the other side. The grass that you're standing on now, even with the patches of dry in it, is the best situation if you make it the best situation. Happiness is knowing that where you are is of value. And there are other persons that not where you are, and they are jealous of where you are, and you here complaining about the things that you have or you don't have. Choose to be happy and be about it, and that is where I am now. That is what I want. That is what I'm working towards.
If you were to look at your 65-year-old self, and he is happy, right? What would he be doing? What is around him? What is his life?
He would be around his kids. He would be in his house. He would be sipping a virgin pina colada. All right? He'd still be watching old episodes of Law and Order with Detective Benson.
You watch Law and Order?
Yeah, boy.
Listen.
Of course, come on.
You have to do it.
You have to watch Horatio as he takes off his glasses when he's about to solve a crime. And they need that. But yeah, that's my idea of being content with just the settlement and the peace of knowing that you've done it. I want to look at my 65-year-old self with no regrets.
This life that you have, you travel so much. Like you've traveled all across the world, and you travel so regularly that
Right.
I think it becomes a part of your system.
Yeah.
And I've experienced it through my own life, and have gone through the transition of having to settle down and like choose a place and stay there.
Which is scary.
People don't talk about actually how difficult it is to stay one place. After having a life of like moving all the time, it actually is terrifying. It's not a part of your system.
No.
Because you aren't designed for that,
No.
right? So I'm asking you this, having traveled and all these things and being where you're at right now, like what is like the toughest lesson that you've had to learn?
Lesson is a futuristic one. It's a lesson that I think I have to learn, which brings me back to the question that you asked before. And I'm happy you brought that up, because the courage I'm talking about is that courage to accept that at some point in time, traveling will stop, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be content with the fact that you did it, and now it's a time to be still and be at peace. But it takes courage to be able to be happy with that. Because for me right now, when I'm in St. Vincent, if I'm in St. Vincent for more than 2 weeks, I get miserable. I'm so accustomed to hotels and planes that has become my life, and I fear what it would feel like when that is not a thing. So that's what I'm saying. I have to have the courage to embrace that.
Yeah.
And I am choosing slowly, musically, to embrace what that will look like. And on a personal level, I'm also choosing to embrace what saying no to going out and drinking, and what saying yes to yes, baby, come, what's for dinner, love you, how was your day, boom, just you, baby, just you.
I rooting for you. I
You rooting for me?
65-year-old.
We 65, me happy, you know?
Yeah, but listen, I rooting for 65-year-old you.
No.
For no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He almost there, you know?
I feel.
in theory, he wants it.
You know what?
He wants
The
it.
concept has arrived in your mind.
Yes.
Because there was a time the concept was
No,
not
it wasn't.
there. So,
My concept was at
he's
one
close.
point in time was just live, do your
Yeah.
thing, bro. But no, there's something cool about being settled. At first, when you're now growing up as a youth, right? To be cool is to have 10 gal.
Yeah.
It's to wear this, it's to have this material things, it's to put rims on your car, it's to have a song system, it's to all that craziness. And at some point in time, you get rid of those things and you say, what is to be cool is to have a house with a pool. And when you don't do that, you realize, well, that is not it either. And after that, you realize, well, what is to be cool is to actually embrace the value of family and paying attention to your kids and having a positive influence on their life. That one don't ever leave you. That will stay with you. Then after that, you realize, bro, sharing your life with a partner who understands and compliments you in what you're doing, and you can do the same for them. I think that has to be the ultimate level of happiness and peace. And I'm now embracing the courage to want that.
I encourage you on that path. Of everything that you've gone through, what kind of father does it make you into?
I am still not completely the father I need to be, right? And this is some of the dark side of the industry, because you do this because you want to be able to unconditionally provide for your kids, right? And sometimes that chase allows you to blur the value of just simple time. There is a value to spending time that cannot be replaced by no amount of money, shoes, cars, tertiary education that you could provide. Those are the things that you're chasing. You want to be able to say, when you're 16, here, look a car, look this, bam, 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 bam. But those things, they're beneficial to your kid. But you're chasing this dream at the expense of missing out on the simple value of spending time. And that is where I want to be as a father, that sometimes this industry, it creates challenges for me to be able to do that. So I'm still not the father that the fullest potential of a father that I really want to be. But I'm working on it.
That's honest though. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. That is very honest. And work on it. I mean, it's a tough balance to find in your career, just in and of itself. What is one quirk about you that only somebody living with you would know? Something that nobody would know unless they live with you.
I'm messy.
You messy?
Yeah.
Come on, you cannot do that.
I know. This is what happens when you, I'm gonna tell you this, parents, you have to put down your foot on your kids and what they do and what they don't do, because you tell yourself you're being their friend, but in the end, as adults, they will be upset with you for not putting down your foot, and I'm upset with my mom for always picking up after me. For always, every time I come home, I could throw my clothes left, right, center. I know in half an hour when I come back, it's packed, it's this, that. But that stuck with me for a bit. I'm better now, but I know that there's still times I come home and I fling off my shoes and I can't even find the next shoes till next week.
What do you think your mom is most proud of now?
It's an unspoken pride, because she's a diehard Christian. But I get it when she defends me and people come and tell me how she defending her son, right? And she supports my ventures in terms of my shows. When I'm the promoter of them, she comes and she handles the business and the money and make sure money gets secured and that kind of thing. But she does not necessarily partake in the enjoyment of these performances, because it's just not.
It's not of her.
Yeah, she's a strict Christian and thing, but they could tell just the pride of just her knowing that that's your son up there. I'll even now, because I know you're going to tell them drink rum, I'll even now love you, but I'm real proud of you. I'm not staying fit, but yeah. So I think she's extremely proud of what I've been able to achieve, and she's coming from a single parent situation, an abusive marriage situation with me as a troublesome youth sometimes, and she was able to, I consider her like an economist, because right now I still can't figure out how she was able to build the house that I grew up in, send me to school, give me like a name brand shoes every now and again, give me money for lunch, send me to Barbados here for vacation every summer. I don't know how she did it as a single parent working with that kind of teacher salary. I still can't figure it out, right? So I always give thanks for whatever financial wisdom she was taking up at that point in time. But that also taught me how to deal with the success that I have now, to know that it takes planning, it takes sacrificing and telling yourself that you don't have it. You have to tell yourself you do not have it in order to save it, right? And one thing I also picked up to, the first person that you should pay is yourself.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just understand that the utility bills, you need to pay yourself. Figure out how you're paying the light bill. Don't figure out how you're paying yourself. Pay yourself first. You deserve it as a human.
Yeah. What do you want the world to know about you? What do you want to leave this space with? Not just Skinny Fabulous, but Gamal as well.
The one thing I'd like persons to take away is that there is a very strong principle of hard work that is Skinny Fabulous. You know, when my friends are sleeping, I am up mentally trying to figure out what is my next step. From the time Trinidad Carnival was finished in March, I was already panicking about what 2024 would look like. My calendar is fully booked out, and I am stressing myself about what my calendar is going to be 2024 and how am I going to maintain what has been the last decade of my life, which is hits after hits, because every year it gets more difficult, right? But that hunger, I am always hungry. I'm never complacent, never comfortable, never consider myself the trailblazer, because I feel that that will be my demise. The minute I call myself a star is the minute I feel I wouldn't become or wouldn't maintain that stardom. I always tell myself I am that hungry, skinny child with the mosquito bites on his foot trying to make a name, and I'm still doing it right now. Always fighting to be bigger, to be better.
I wish you all the best. I pray for you. I pray for your heart and your desires and all them good things.
You owe me a gin and tonic though.
Listen, so we're gonna do that. Till next time, love.
Hello.